This is Tyrese Haliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What's up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden. Joining me today to talk about the Pacers' 128-115 loss at home to the New York Knicks is Michael J. Facci. Facci, we got a lot to talk about today because, number one, Myles Turner did not play in this game, will not play in the game against Washington on Wednesday, and Rick Carlisle said he hopes, I thought that was really interesting, that he hopes Myles will be ready after the All-Star break. Then we found out today that the Pacers also were going to make a change to the starting lineup. Aaron Nesmith in, Ben Mathurin to the bench. Lots to discuss. Where do you want to start?
Well, I guess we could probably the Turner stuff would be a little bit shorter. I think it's the right decision to hold him out in this game and against Washington. I think you can definitely beat Washington. Would have been great to beat the Knicks, but to give Turner that extra, solid 1 to 2 weeks off, I think that would be really, really beneficial for him. The hope part is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought that would be like a guarantee that he'd be back after the All-Star break. We'll have to wait and see. As it relates next to the change in the starting lineup, you and I and many other people probably thought that that could happen. We did a mailbag recently that hasn't aired where we were actually both in favor to say that we think that they would make a change at some point. I did not expect it to be before this next game.
I think to everybody's surprise, I actually said keep Ben Mathurin in the starting five. Based on the comments I get on social media, you would think I'd say put Mathurin at the 8th spot on the roster, but I actually said continue to let him start. Don't change it. Nothing's really been that bad. Myles has not been healthy. Kind of ride it out. Let him see how it works. But Rick Carlisle tonight post game was asked about this, and he basically just said that there's been a lot of indicators that have been pointing us in this direction for a while. And he did mention that the fact that Tyrese and Siakam are in the starting five, it does take away the amount of opportunities that it gives Mathurin to score. Whereas with the second unit, he's able to do that. So the points are there. It's the points we've all been talking about. It's nothing new. I think we all kind of expected that. There's a reason why Mathurin was kind of the de facto sixth man over the last, couple of years because he can really do stuff off the bench. And I think he's better as a primary scorer versus a guy that's a third, fourth option, like we said. That's not going to be great. So, this is the best way to maximize his offensive abilities.
I think it is. It's not groundbreaking. Just like you said, it's not like you or I came up with, the reason why this might make sense. It's a logical thing that the guy needs the ball. He needs the ball, and we mentioned he's a third or fourth option in that starting lineup. So off the bench, it gives him more of that opportunity to be that go-to scorer where he's thrived in that role in the past. And I just feel like from a team standpoint, Aaron Nesmith is like less maintenance offensively. Like he doesn't need the ball much. He can just kind of play his role, and then Mathurin can thrive a bit more off the bench. Let's just look at this so people don't overreact. Benedict Mathurin played 31 minutes in this game. Aaron Nesmith played 13. I know a lot of that was he was in foul trouble and things like that, but like it's not like Mathurin's having his role reduced. It's just is having his role be a little bit differently. And I think in this game, we saw him cook early on. Like he had 10 points in the first 8 minutes of this game. It looked awesome. It looked like, hey, this is great. He could be on his way to a big game. Obviously, he only had 10. He had 10 points the first eight. That means that he only had 8 points in the final 23 minutes. The second half was really not much there for Benedict Mathurin, but early on, it looked like a good move to have him come off the bench and be heating up.
No, I mean, I thought Mathurin actually looked like a guy on a mission.
Early on, yeah, he
Yeah.
looked motivated, and he doesn't need much to get motivated, but he looked like he was going to come out and cook.
Yeah, I mean, he was locked in. And so one you just mentioned it, the second half, or really the not always, not just the entirety of the second half, but it was, just different parts throughout the game. I want to say this very carefully because I think that Ben Mathurin is such a good on-ball defender when he's locked in. When he came in for Aaron Nesmith, he was locking up Jalen Brunson. I mean, and it was not just, one or two different times. I mean, it was like for long stretches there. And Jalen Brunson would try to get him on a little pump fake. Mathurin stayed down, stayed home, was really disciplined. I thought, man, Mathurin's really locked in on this on-ball defense. It's when he's not playing on-ball defense is where he gets lost defensively. And this is where he really needs to step up and get better on this end. Look, I'm not saying that other players aren't bad off-ball defenders. I'll get to some of those players later in this game. I just think for Mathurin to kind of complete that cycle of becoming a better defender, he needs to be better off ball. And the thing that really stood out to me was how many times like a guy like Landry Shamet just got wide open looks to the basket because Mathurin was out of position or ball watching, things like that. But when he's playing on ball defense, he's locked in. So this could be a coaching thing. And I don't know how you feel about this, but maybe the Pacers should try to give him more primary defensive matchups where the guy is more of an on-ball threat versus an off-ball threat, just because they know off-ball is not his strong suit. So if you see like a Deuce McBride out there going off like he was, throw Mathurin on him. See if Mathurin can kind of disrupt Deuce McBride versus having him chase around a three-point shooter, because that's not his best strong suit. So a fair criticism, I feel like, but curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's good. Look, Deuce absolutely cooked in this game, and I think that could have been maybe a little bit of a better matchup for Mathurin. The one thing I want to say is, in terms of off the ball, Mathurin had an incredible chase down block in
But
this
that's
game.
different. That's not off
Yeah,
ball.
I know it is.
That's chasing a play down in a fast break.
I just wanted to give him credit for that because it was a great block. It was awesome to see that type of hustle. But yeah, look, he's come a long way as a defender. Still has long ways to go. I think a lot of players on this team do, but they have tightened up defensively over the past 2 months, and I think that you're going to get some of the good with Mathurin. You're going to get some of the bad, but I think it's definitely he's come a long way since last year. So, do you want to?
Are you seeing the off-ball deficiencies though? Are you seeing him get beat off backdoor screens?
Yeah, I definitely see it. But when you're saying give him like the primary matchup defensively,
I'm saying when he's out there, give him more primary ball handling defensive matchups. Because I mean, Jalen Brunson is one of the best on-ball players in the league.
Yes, definitely.
And did Jalen Brunson have a good game tonight? No, Jalen Brunson was terrible. He got in foul trouble. But Mathurin, when Nesmith got in 2 quick fouls, Nesmith was absolutely awful tonight, okay? Yes. Mathurin comes into the game, and Mathurin was unbelievable on him. They decided to put Mathurin on him over Nembhard because they know Nembhard does not, match up well with Brunson because he needs a little bit more size on him. And that's what I liked about Mathurin guarding him. I thought it was great. But I'm curious from your, vantage point, what you're watching, like, are you seeing those plays where Mathurin's kind of watching the ball a little bit when he's on defense, and you see a guy just cut right behind him?
Totally. We've seen that for a few years now. We really have. And I think that was he would get yanked at times, in the past. From Carlisle, I would see that, and then all of a sudden we'd be wondering, how come he's not coming back in the game? And it's like, well, he was just totally delayed on defensive position or anything of that sort, of just not paying attention, whatever you want to say, late to react, any of those things. So, yeah, definitely noticed it. I think that that's something where, he wants to hold himself to a high standard of being a great two-way player. If you want to be that type of player, yeah, you obviously got to improve, guarding players off the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think on a night like tonight, yeah, I think people are going to be quick to overreact to change because Nesmith did not play well. And the Pacers lose this game. And I think it's quick to say, all right, well, they're going to go back to this. You don't make this type of change for one game. You don't do that. That's how you get criticized, and that's how people then start to think you're wishy-washy and your role is changing. So there's going to have to be a larger sample size. Is this the switch of all switches and they're not going to switch back? No, not necessarily. But at the same point, you would imagine that Carlisle would like for this to work out moving forward. However, there's still a lot of basketball to play.
Well, and I think last year we really saw Mathurin play well with the second unit, especially the group of Toppin, Isaiah Jackson, and TJ McConnell.
In the NBA last year.
Even Ben Sheppard was like that fifth guy, right? And so it was like pretty much the same second unit. You just have Thomas Bryant when Myles is healthy versus Isaiah Jackson. And I know it's a little bit different, but not that much. And they had Jalen Smith out there for quite a bit of time too, instead of Isaiah. So I think it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I thought it was a little bit soon. I was not. I think this is something that would make more sense to do after the All-Star break. You have 2 games left. I mean, what's the point of making the change right now? Part of me wondered, are they more so worried about Myles Turner not being there to protect the rim that they trust Aaron's perimeter defense a little bit more? Because I would say, like, from what we've seen sample size-wise, you would say Aaron Nesmith is a better on-ball defender than Benedict Mathurin on a night-to-night basis, right? And I'm not trying to say Mathurin is a bad defender in that regard because I think he's gotten better, like I just said. But I would agree with that. I think Nesmith has been better, and so has Nembhard on a consistent basis, and probably even Sheppard at times. But, at this point, Sheppard is not giving you nearly the amount of offense that Mathurin's giving you, or he's not as good of a defender as Nesmith, so he's not really in that conversation, in my opinion. But, Aaron Nesmith looks rusty. He has not looked like himself, specifically on the offensive end. I'm not even worried about the defense with him. Yeah, he got some tic-tacky fouls, but the offense is where he has just looked so, like, meh to me. And that makes me a little bit nervous because if he's not going to be a knockdown three-point shooter and he's not really much of an off ball like, or an on ball guy. Like, what is he really giving you?
It's crazy because when he came back from his injury, he couldn't miss. The first couple of minutes, I mean, he was hitting everything. Played, about 10 minutes per game those first few games,
I can
and
already hear Quinn Buckner saying, "Fresh legs, fresh
he was
legs."
hitting everything. And I was like, wow, Neesmith looks rejuvenated. Now I'm looking at it right now, and over his last 3 games, he's 3 for 15 from the
Yeah.
field. He has not made a three. He's over 10 in that stretch. We're talking about not hitting threes. He hasn't hit a three in 3 games. I mean, it's definitely pretty ice cold, and he scored under 6 points, in the last 4 games. So it's definitely not good. Actually, I'm gonna look at this right now. Whew. January 29th, he played 32 minutes against Detroit. He went scoreless.
Yeah.
So yeah,
He was still a positive plus minus, right? Plus 20 or something.
there's been some bad games in there, but like that's why you're the fifth starter at those times, because you don't need to have 10 shots. You don't need to get your 15 points or anything of that sort. And that's why it's different with Mathurin in the starting lineup, because you need to get him. Like Mathurin's not going to get 6 or 8 or anything like that. So looking at that game against Detroit, yeah, you're right. He was plus 20 going scoreless. That is really hard for many other players to be able to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think our friend Derek from iPacers.com or iPacers blog really did share a good stat. The last 7 games since the Paris trip, the Pacers 3-point percentages. The first game back, 50%. The next 6 games, 36%, 24%, 21%, 33%, 32%, 29%. That team is shooting awful. And it just kind of shows you like they were winning a lot of games. And what did I say? I probably haven't answered this one yet because it's on our mailbag. It's on a part 3 of our mailbag that'll air Saturday. It was like, what stat do you look at to identify at the if the Pacers are going to win or lose? And I said, I'll go negative here. I'll go losing. I said, look at the 3-point percentage of the 3-point field goals made, and that's how you know if the Pacers lost or not. Like, they still got 115 points up tonight,
Yeah.
shooting 29% from 3. So they still found ways to get the ball in the basket, but it makes a difference when you're not hitting from outside because you become so one-dimensional.
No, it does. And, one of the stats that I said was, hey, if they get to 30 assists, most of the time they win. They did that tonight. They lost. I just feel like you look at the flip side of things. It's the Knicks had 37 assists. They got pretty much everything they wanted. The Knicks swung the ball around really well. They crushed Indiana on the glass. You and I were talking off air. It was a 48-36 rebound advantage for the Knicks. But that's not the real stat. I mean, Johnny Furphy got 4 offensive rebounds in the final minute of the game. 3 of them came in like a 6-second span or less. Indiana pulled like 7 boards in the final 2 minutes, so they made it look like they only got out rebounded by 12, but they were getting crushed on the glass. And in terms of second chance points, I mean, New York was all over them. New York scored. I got the stat over here. It was like 19-6 advantage in second chance points. So that was really big. And it just Indiana. I don't know. I felt like, and this maybe is unpopular, but I think it's true. I felt like New York just wanted this game more. I think they look at the Pacers as a team that stole a series from them in the playoffs because New York broke down. And I think they look at them as like, I want to crush the competition. They added their new toy in Cat. Cat killed the Pacers tonight.
The big purr.
The big purr had 24 at halftime. All right. He finished with 40, 12, and 5 on 14 of 23 shooting. And I broke at the stats. I wanted to look back to see, does Indiana have a cat problem? And you know what? They've had a cat problem for a while. The problem is that the Knicks got them now. And this isn't playing the Timberwolves once or twice a year. Game 1 of the season, Cat dropped 21 and 15 on the Pacers. Game 2, even though the Pacers won, he had 30 and 9 on 11 of 19 shooting. And then game 3, like I mentioned, 40 points, 12 boards, 5 assists on 14 of 23 shooting. It's going to be tough playing the Knicks this year. The regular season series against them is over now. They won it 2-1, but maybe we meet in the playoffs.
If I were to tell you that Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Brunson combined for 54 points, you would say that's pretty good. Mikal Bridges was nothing tonight. Jalen Brunson was nothing tonight, but it was Karl Towns who was just doing absolutely everything.
Yep.
I mean, I tweeted it out because it made me laugh so hard. Like, there is a replay of Cat on the fast break, and he does this like
Oh
look
yeah,
away and just this like over dramatic bounce
so
pass
cheesy,
and transition,
so
and he's
cheesy.
making these big faces, and he's got like the deer in the headlight look almost, but like he's just being funny, but he's being serious because he's excited. I mean, he looked like Magic Johnson out there running the fast break. How excited he was making these dimes, and he had a couple of them in the
He
first
did.
half. I mean, he was cooking, and I don't know if you've seen my reoccurring tweet that I've been putting out probably the last couple of weeks, but it says, "Don't take Myles Turner for granted." I
Yep.
keep tweeting that out, and people today are, not sure how to respond to this because they're like, "Well, I thought Thomas Bryant played pretty good." I thought Thomas Bryant played really good too, but the problem is Thomas Bryant cannot be playing 32 minutes a
48
game.
minutes, exactly. I mean, it's
Yeah,
crazy. He can't always be on the court for a while. So Thomas Bryant finished at, he was a -10, but that's not on him. Through 3 quarters, he was just a -2.
yeah.
And I thought that he did play well in this game. Obviously, look, 18 points, 9 boards, 4 assists. I mean, it's great. The man has limited of what he can do. Indiana only had, they signed Julio Okafor. They give him a 10-day. You only play him in the final 3 minutes of the game. I mean,
He should
look,
not play in that. He cannot guard Cat in space.
not at all. Look, not at all. But I'm just saying, like, this is a tall task for Thomas Bryant to have. Like, I just
Yeah.
felt like, at least have another center out there. I know Julio Okafor is not like your typical center. Always been more of an offensive guy, but it just felt like Indiana had no answer. And look, I'm with you on the tweet. I don't think Myles Turner would have been the difference in this game tonight. I just think that Indiana would have played a much better game. But Turner's also struggled against Cat in the past, and that goes back quite a few years.
No, but you know who also really struggled in this game and was an absolute net negative and was just absolutely putrid? Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin was terrible in this game. I don't care if his stats say that he shot 50% from the field. He was unplayable. They had to pull him late at the beginning of the fourth quarter and put Jarris Walker in, a guy that hadn't played the first 3 quarters because he was so bad. And I made my comments about Matherin's off-ball defense with Shamit. There was literally 3 plays in a row where Josh Hart just got free because Obi Toppin was not guarding him. Obi Toppin was just lost out there. He looked like he was in La La Land. And then you're asking him to play the backup five. He cannot play the backup five. I
No,
don't understand what. And I'm sorry for being a little bit harsh here about Obi Toppin, but one thing that drives me nuts is when he's playing as the five, Facci. There's sometimes when you'll see a Nick or whatever the opponent is driving to the basket, and instead of just contesting the shot straight up, Obi Toppin always steps to the side and tries to block it from the side. Just go straight up, verticality, like embrace some physicality. Like the guy's almost afraid to like touch somebody. I don't know, but the thing that I'm saying for Myles Turner, don't take him for granted. That means you have Thomas Bryant and Myles Turner playing at the
oh,
five
I
primarily,
completely
and
agree.
you have no need to play Obi Toppin there because he takes you out of, him playing the five takes you completely out of what you're used to doing. So, they have to go with that because I do think that it did work well against the Clippers because Zubac is a totally different kind of big that's not going to be able to score in a lot of different ways. You can kind of pull him out from the basket where he can't be as effective and shoot over him, things like that. But for the most part, he's not been good since the Paris trip. He's been pretty bad, and I feel like he had one good game against the Clippers, and that's it. But to me, just going back to this game specifically, I didn't think Thomas Bryant was awful on Towns. He was just not quick enough to guard him out in space. And I was a little bit surprised that we did not see the Pacers switch to putting Pascal Siakam on Towns and putting Thomas Bryant on a guy like Precious Achua to kind of be there to roam and protect the rim because he's going to be a better rim protector than Pascal is, and that Pascal can use his speed and length to maybe disrupt Cat. I was a little bit shocked they did not ever put that matchup on
Yeah,
Towns.
I mean, you know what you're getting out of Precious Achua. I mean, it's like they totally should have done that more because Indiana, it just had his way. He just totally had his way in this game. Yeah, your point on Obi, it's like I don't want to see Obi as a small ball five. That's a better idea than it is the actual result. And even anytime you're going to ask Siakam to play at the five, it's just a lot. It's a lot to ask someone. Like you need. That's why you love and you have Turner out there. And Thomas Bryant is a great backup big. And even in these games, I think, like we talked about, he has stepped up. You have your limitations. When you're talking about Cat versus Thomas Bryant, it's like that's not supposed to be like a diss on Thomas Bryant.
No.
It's like one man is the number one overall pick and an all-star. And the other guy has bounced around for a couple years and hopefully has found a good home in Indiana. He's had some double-digit scoring seasons in the NBA, but they're totally different, caliber players. But going back to Josh Hart is like that pesky guy that like, you would love to be on his team, but if you're playing against him, you could see the way he just influences the game in so many different ways. Is like he had some big games against the Pacers in the playoffs. But tonight I feel like he really like stepped up. I mean, he's going to play basically all game, which is tough. It's what he did again in the playoffs. He's going to play near 48 minutes in those games. Plays 40 minutes tonight. 30 points, 10 boards, 5 assists, couple steals, like shoots 12 of 16. I mean, just a smart, like high IQ player. And I feel like, anytime that Cat and Josh Hart are combined for 70 points, you're probably going to win. The problem is that Indiana did nothing to take advantage when Jalen Brunson was out. This is a game that you didn't barely even knew that Jalen Brunson even played. It was 23 minutes. He had 2 points in the second half. 2 points in the second half.
Yeah.
And Indiana couldn't do anything with it. They cut it to 4 at one point in the third, but in the fourth quarter, they were not a threat at all.
What's crazy to me is the lineup that actually cut the lead to 4 was they pulled Pascal out for Obi, and you had Obi and Thomas out there. I think it was Mathurin, Haliburton, and somebody else. I forget who it was. I don't think it was Nembhard. It might have been Sheppard, but I really cannot remember at this point. But I was like, how are they doing this without Siakam out there on the court with how good Siakam had played the whole game? And, here all of a sudden with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, Cat goes to the bench. It's a pretty close game. And the Knicks outscored the Pacers like 8-2 or something like that. I was just like, okay. And the Pacers there for a good stretch there when the game was close, they missed like 6 free throws.
Oof.
And it was just like freebies right there. Like Obi Toppin was short on 1. McConnell missed 2. I think Mathurin missed 2, if I'm not mistaken. And then somebody else missed 1 as well. And I was just like, man, if you miss 6 free throws like that when the game is kind of like in between that, 5 to 8 range in terms of the points, like it just felt so much bigger in the moment. So yeah, it was just honestly like a rough game overall. And Rick Carlisle even said it after the game, like this was not a good game defensively. I'm basically not going to watch the film. We got to move on. Got to get to Washington. Like there's like 8 inches of snow, I guess, in Washington, something like that crazy. So they have to like hurry and leave as soon as possible from Indianapolis to get there. Their game's at 7, which is weird because you rarely see a team play at 7:30 and then not even get a full 24 hours for the next tip-off. So I thought it might start at 8 just because they might want to push it back a little bit. But regardless, there's a lot of other things we could talk about. Is, Tyrese Haliburton somebody you want to bring up?
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't a great game by Haliburton by any means at all. I think that's one way to put it. But it wasn't like this game where he was like atrocious. Like one thing I want to give him credit for is that Haliburton got up shots in the first quarter. Like he tried to be, really active. I want to say he got up 6 shots in that first quarter, and that was good to see. Problem was he just wasn't hitting them. And I think that's the thing. You're gonna put up 6 shots. Like I want to say like Brunson in the first quarter had 7 shots. Haliburton had 6. They were both struggling, but I had the respect. So Haliburton was 2 of 6 in that first quarter, and he had 5 points. Okay, great, 7 points at halftime. But I just feel like you got to make a little bit more of an impact when Jalen Brunson's not out there to just really be able to like kind of put the team on your back a little bit more. And I feel like in this game, just not the best Haliburton performance, but not one where we lost as a result of him not stepping up.
Yeah, I don't really think there was one player to me that really stood out. I would say
was an effort.
Toppin's minutes were probably the worst, in my opinion. Like if I were to say letter grade wise, I would give Toppin the worst grade possible just because of what he did. And it's fair. He was so bad defensively, and he provided nothing offensively. He made some. He had 1 basket that was late there with a lob, so he ended up. I think he had like 5 points.
He had I think both of his baskets were lobs. I want to say
He had 9 points, but he had 5 in the fourth when
Sure.
the game was already over.
Yeah, but there was 2 lobs that were like very, very, like Mathurin threw him one.
That was a beautiful pass by
Yeah,
Mathurin.
exactly. That was a dime, like set him up, very easy. But like this was not Obi, really getting his own buckets and stuff like that. 0 for 3 from 3-point land. I think that this is just one where I think the Knicks wanted it more. I think that this is now, and look, let's also say this. We've talked about no Turner, no Turner, no Turner. There's no OG. All right, so
that doesn't affect the Pacers in terms of what the Pacers were doing. I'm just saying
I know, but
we're not
but
looking at it from a Knicks perspective, right? I mean, we're looking at this from a Pacers perspective. I'm looking at the Knicks. I'm like, yeah, we did this without Brunson and OG. The Pacers stink. That's what I would think.
That is what they're thinking. I live in New York. I got abused by everybody I know.
I'm sure
Everybody I
you're getting body
know.
bagged right now.
Everybody I know has messaged me, but you guys are soft. You guys stink. Oh my God, you don't want to see us in the playoffs. This, that, and like tonight, a night like tonight, it's like, yeah, we got bullied. We simply got bullied. Like I can't make the excuse, oh no, Turner, because if OG was out there, I mean, they wouldn't by even more. They didn't have OG. We lost by 13, and we
Yeah.
just I just feel like we got outworked across the board. Like every single category, I would say the Knicks were better in tonight. I guess I'm looking at it right now. I guess the Pacers had a few less fouls and turnovers. That's about it. Other than that, the Knicks won every category.
Yeah. Well, I want to get back to Tyrese real quick because this is an important thing. Fans, no matter how they feel about Tyrese, the things that you always see on Twitter after every loss, Tyrese wasn't good enough.
Yep.
We're paying him
Always.
too much money. How do you pay a max guy this much money? It's like, look, guys, he's not going to be perfect every single night. And me and you dive into this more on the mailbags coming up
Yeah.
on Friday and Saturday. So I don't want to like spend too much time stealing all of our answers from that mailbag. But I think we just need to relax a little bit, pump the brakes. I mean, yeah, he didn't have a great game and he was bad defensively. I mean, that's just kind of Tyrese, and we all should accept, kind of accept that for what he is. Like he's not a great defender, and they have to
Never
try to
has
win
been.
in spite of his bad defense. Like there's been times where he stepped up. Like go back to the West Coast road trip, like in some of those clutch games, like against the Clippers, even against the Lakers down the stretch. Like he had some big steals. Like he can lock in at times, but it's not. He's not going to do it on a consistent basis, and they're always going to try to put him on the worst offensive player when he's on defense because they want to make sure that they can do as much as possible to keep him from getting cooked because he's just not a good defender. He's way too thin. I think the level of physicality that the league is allowing is just making things tougher for him. But like you talked about it, he was really aggressive in that first quarter. I was impressed with his ability. Like he had a really nice mid-range jumper that he pulled up and made. Had a nice three-pointer that he splashed right in front of the Pacers bench. He was driving to the basket there in that third quarter. I think he ended up having two straight drives in a row where he just got right by Mikal Bridges and was able to lay it in. So like you were starting to see like he was doing it at different levels and not just like, oh, I'm shooting threes or oh, I'm just shooting mid-range jumpers or oh, I'm only doing layups. He did all three things. It just he couldn't, really hit a lot of shots. He was 7 of 15, 2 of 6 from 3. Like wasn't a great efficiency night, but to me like some of the looks he took weren't great either, but even Carlisle said after the game like he likes the looks that they're mostly generating. They're just not getting shots to fall. And I think their legs look tired, Facci. And I'm not using that as an excuse. I just when a lot of the shots are short, that to me is an indicator that, yeah, you know what? These guys are tired. And it's a human element part of it too. I bet they're looking to that all-star break.
I honestly think they are. I really think that they're like trying to. I think that road trip. I think it came at a bad time.
Well,
And
right
I,
after the Paris trip.
I meant that's what I meant. That's exactly what I meant. That Paris trip is like I almost wish we just didn't go. Like it just feels like it's like yeah, you split the series and then you won like the next two games after that. It's great, but like I just feel like there's certain areas in the season that you could look back on. I feel like last year it was the in-season tournament, and like that took a lot out of him. And then now it's like, man, we didn't if we didn't go to Paris, I feel like we would have just, there's a lot that goes on during that span, and this and the highs and lows and this and this, and like I just feel like it would have been great if we could have avoided that. I got a stat for you right now. I'm gonna
Okay.
throw this out. So, the Pacers are, I believe it's exactly because I might have just lost track. They're 16-2 in the regular season right now this year when Tyrese scores 20 or more.
Yeah. Well,
16 and
I'm
2.
18 times out of how many games is that possible?
I
52 now. So 18 out of 52.
if you
He's
do the
played it.
math,
He missed one, so 15, 51. 18 out of 51. That's like 35, 40%.
35%.
Look at that. I'm a mathematician, baby.
Not bad, but we're talking about a guy that, like, he's averaging 17.8 points per game. And it's like, we see him as a coming into the year. It's like, hey, if he's really capable, like, oh, could he average like 22 or something like that? Oh, when the guy scores 20 or more, the Pacers are 16-2. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's,
He's
come
just got
on.
to dig a little deeper. I want to see him dig a little deeper. And that's kind of why my frustrations have been there with him throughout this season. It's just like we know what he's capable of, right? And I think that's what's the most frustrating part of it is we know what he's capable of and we just want to see him do it. I do feel like at times he settles for certain shots and I don't always love his shot selection. It feels like he does try to take some heater threes because he's trying to get himself going,
Oh, definitely.
rushed and just like take it in the flow, man. Like he's not going to listen to me. He's got so many people in his ear telling him what to do, and he's got enough smart basketball minds, telling him how he should play the game. Like anything I say on this podcast is not stuff that he's already heard criticism wise from
Yeah.
people he's working with closely. Like the dude gets it. He's got his head on straight, and it's the longevity of an 82 game season, and he was very aware of it at practice on Monday. The media asked him about not being named an All-Star. He said, "Well." He's like, I know by the way I played in the first half of the season, like I didn't really deserve it. Like the first part of the season, I didn't deserve it. Like he's like, yeah, he said it's more motivation for me to just be better. It's not because I felt like I got snubbed or anything. And Rick Carlisle on the radio today, basically on Tuesday around 8 in the morning, he said that, we have two All-Stars. We have, Pascal Siakam and Tyrese. And it's just like, he's like, I just want to make that very clear. He might not have made it this year, but he is an All-Star. And it's like,
Yeah.
you don't have to make him feel so much better by complimenting him. Like we know that he is a very talented player. He just not been playing great this year. So anyway, I mean that's that. I will. I don't know if you have anything else on Tyrese because I want to add something about somebody else now.
No, it's just like, yeah, he is an all-star. Not this year. That's not debatable. He was not good enough. He was not in the run to be a replacement. Like Trae Young got the replacement spot. I think if they were going to give another one, it'd probably go to LaMelo Ball. I don't think that Tyrese is next in line for that. He has not had an all-star caliber season. Rick can say we have two all-stars because we do. We do have two guys that are all-star caliber players, or within the last, 2 seasons have made an all-star game, anything like that. But this year, no. This year we don't have two players that were worth being on the All-Star team. Tyrese will make other All-Star games, maybe even next year. But for this year, he knows what it is. We get it.
Yeah. And so I just want to say one other thing, not about Tyrese, but about somebody else on this team, Andrew Nembhard. Andrew Nembhard to me has looked really bad the last two games. They
Yep.
might be his two worst offensive performances I've seen since he's come back from the injury. Just early on, he was chucking a lot of shots, and then he just basically quit. And it felt very reminiscent to the game against Portland, I believe it was on that Tuesday night, where he took maybe it was a Clipper game, I can't remember, but no, yeah, it was a Clippers game, I think. He came out and took 5 or 6 shots in a row, and they were just like
Yep.
brick, 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 and I'm like,
9 in that game.
yeah, it was awful. And so I'm just like, man, he's really been shooting the ball poorly. I don't know if it's some kind of shot, mechanic he needs to work out, but if he's not shooting the ball well, and then you're already taking Mathurin out and putting Neesmith in there, and Neesmith's not been shooting the ball well, your hopes that you can do different things with Tyrese are just going to make it even more difficult because the floor is being shrunk. Thank goodness that Pascal shooting 41% from three and Myles is a very reliable 3-point shooter because that's kind of been your floor spacing this year. But if Siakam ever reverts back to who he was, for his career, or even just a little bit less than 41%, it's really going to shrink the floor. So they need more shooting. They really do. And I think Nembhard's got to be a better shooter.
Yeah, I mean, Nembhard is 5 of 18 in his last 3 games. He has not hit a three in 4 straight games. So you're talking about Neesmith and Nembhard have given you nothing from
Yeah.
three-point land in the last 3 or 4 games. All of a sudden, you look at the rest of the team, Siakam, what he's doing this year, that's not sustainable. And I think that everyone else has been streaky 3-point shooters. At times, like I said, we have a lot of 36% 3-point shooters on this team, those type of guys that are just above average, but maybe not consistently. Nembhard shooting, actually this year it's just 32.5% from three. So, not great. I think that Mathurin's 3-point shot has come down to earth, since the beginning of the year. I think that you're looking at it. Tyrese Haliburton used to be a 40% 3-point shooter. Now is, it's 36.6. So I think that everybody is you're lacking that go-to 3-point guy. I think as good as Ben Sheppard's been, come on, Ben Sheppard's not shooting on a high clip. He's improved as a 3-point shooter, but no one's putting up the Buddy Hield 8 attempts from three per game,
Right.
10 attempts and hitting at 40% or more.
I will say this. You talked about the road trip and how good Sheppard's been, and I'm not sure if this was on one episode we recorded after the first mailbag, if it's one of the part
Did so many in a row.
twos
Yeah.
or three, I can't remember, but you talked about how well he played on the road. And
He's a positive.
maybe it was Sunday's
episode.
episode. It might have been Sunday's episode we did for Monday, a different one.
I
So
think it was.
you talked about how he was a positive plus minus in every road trip game.
Yep.
He was a positive plus minus in the Knights game, and I know he was in there for the junk time minutes when that group won. But man, like just looking at his 3-point percentage, Facci, and how well he shot the ball again from three, only playing 13 minutes. I think they got to find more minutes for him on the court. I really do. And if that has to cut into Obi's minutes, I'd rather go small, play Neesmith or Matherin at the four at times, and make sure Sheppard gets more minutes because I just love the way he competes, and I feel like 13 minutes is not enough for what he brings to the table.
I'm looking at this now, and that is tied for the second fewest minutes he's played all season.
Tonight.
Yeah. Interesting that was the case because I feel
Because
like
he
it's
was
like,
good tonight. I thought he
yeah,
was
but
good tonight.
I mean, it's crazy. You'd have to go all the way back to, it was December 23rd. He played 11 minutes against the Golden State Warriors. And then other than that, you'd have to trek back like a full another month and a half before that, where he played 11 minutes. So, yeah, that's very curious why he played so few minutes tonight when he's coming off playing 28 minutes against the Lakers. So the minutes have kind of been a little bit all up and down. 15 minutes against the Clippers. 21 minutes against Portland, 18, 20. Typically, he's in that closer to 20 to 21 minute range. So to play just between 13 to 14 minutes tonight, that's definitely an interesting point. Guy loves a corner three. He's been hitting them. He's been hitting them. It's been pretty, and I'm very confident when I see him in the corner now. That's like that one's going in, and yeah, until he misses, keep feeding him the ball because I'm looking at it right now, and he's shot the ball very well lately. The last three games, 4 of 5 against the Knicks, 3 of 6 against the Lakers, 5 of 7 against the Clippers. So it's been pretty good, and especially from 3-point land, he's been the last few games. Shot 2 of 3 against the Knicks, 3 of 5 against the Lakers, 2 of 4 against Clippers. Those last three games, he's been good. Double-digit scoring in all three of them.
Yeah, play Ben Sheppard more.
Yeah.
4 words for you. Play Ben Sheppard more.
That is 4. I had to count myself.
It took you a while to count the 4, Facci.
I didn't want you to go over. I was like, wait a minute. Hey, it's about midnight as we're recording this. So for a quick second, I was like, is that 5? But
It's
no.
5 syllables. That's what got you confused there. 5 syllables, 4
Yes,
words.
so.
So, anyway, last thing I want to touch on just before we sign off here. I'm not going to give out player awards tonight. I don't think we should do player awards on losses. We'll just leave that at that. So, 4 wins, we'll keep our player awards. But thoughts on Jarace Walker not getting in until the fourth quarter, how you thought he played, and only playing him 53 seconds before pulling him out again.
He had a really nice N1. That was great. He was like running down, I thought it slammed it with some force, got fouled. It was great. This is where we're at with Jarace Walker. Once again, I don't know which episode it was in the mailbag, but we talked about how it's like, look, he's sadly falling out of the rotation. And I think that, he played 9 minutes, but how many minutes would he have played if it wasn't a blowout? I think this is kind of where we're at now, where I don't see him playing anywhere close to the 20 minutes that he was playing on a nightly basis when Aaron Nesmith was not out there. The minutes have been in single digits for, quite a bit over the last handful of games.
I just thought it was inexcusable to only play in 53 seconds and pull him right back out. It's like,
what can you do in that time?
I mean, I get going back to Thomas Bryant because you needed some size out there, but like if you're gonna go out there, just like let him play a little bit. Like, don't pull him off the bench in the fourth quarter to just play him for a few seconds. I mean, if you're trying to find something different because Obi's so bad, like okay, let him play a little bit. Like you can't expect him to just go in there that cold and be productive right away. And I mean, that's a lot to ask a young player that's trying to prove himself. Like I did not like the position they put him in that regard. If you're gonna play him, let him play, and don't just put him in there for less than a minute. I just did not understand that decision by Carlisle. But other than that, nothing else on this game, besides the fact that it was National Girls and Women in Sports Celebration Night. The Fever were there. I don't know if you saw my video of the Fever that were there, but Dewana Bonner, Lexi Hall, Aaliyah Boston, and of course Caitlin Clark were there sitting courtside watching the game, and they got an outstanding ovation from the fans. And I think that if you're an Indiana Fever fan, you got to love this offseason fight, and you got to be excited for the future with this group. But really cool to see them there to support the team, and it was great to see the response from Pacer fans to support the Fever as well.
Love it. Yeah, I think it's great. I think there's a lot of buzz around the Fever, and I think that obviously we know basketball in Indiana. It's something special. So great to.
What do you know about it, you big New Yorker?
Hey, I mean that's what the Pacers are known for. I mean, it's just like Indiana overall. Basketball is different there. You can feel the passion. All the players, everyone's always said it. You can feel it. great to be when I've gone to games in Indiana. It's different, man. Trust me. You go to a game in Madison Square Garden's different. You go to a game in Brooklyn or you go to a game in Washington, D.C., there is nothing. It's just people just talking. You could hear a pin drop. It's like nobody cares. So it's really, really important to have a city, have a state that like loves the game of basketball. So cool to see them honor those players.
All right, Facci, we've gone a little bit lengthier than we probably expected. It's almost midnight here as we're wrapping this up. And this is an East Coast start time, so I do apologize for keeping you up a little bit later. But you will be back tomorrow for a recap of the Pacers-Wizards game. I will probably not be able to make that one, so you might be going solo. You might be having a guest on. We're not sure yet, but Facci
We'll find out.
will be running the show tomorrow. So make sure you guys tune into that. If you're looking for your Wizards insider here, look no further than Facci doing a recap of that game.
Boom. Hey, a little midnight joke. Nice. Yeah, hopefully the Pacers can take care of business. I think there would be a stank on this team if they dropped 3 in a row. This is the first time they lost back-to-back games in 2025. So it would be bad if they ran that losing streak to 3 against a team that they're better than. Just flat out, you're better than the Washington Wizards, and I think that Indiana has not been able to take advantage of the Lakers with no Luka and LeBron. Take advantage of the Knicks, while you're at home. I looked at the stat. The Knicks hadn't beat the Pacers in Indiana since April of 2023. They lost all 3 games in the playoffs against Indiana on the road, and they had lost quite a few in the regular season. That's been snapped. So hey, the Knicks got over the hump. Hopefully the Pacers can go into the All-Star break on a winning note and beat the Washington Wizards. Tune in. I'll be there to talk about it.
Get the 30 wins.
Yeah. Hey, we'll take that. It'll be good. Let's see, 29, 23. Let's see, that's 52 wins. Yeah, if you get 30 wins before the All-Star break, I think at this point that's pretty solid. I think the Pacers are in a good spot. Nonetheless, they're not playing the same basketball they were maybe a week ago. Things could always be way, way worse. We've seen it early on this season.
No, we definitely have. So Pacer Nation, thank you all so much for tuning in. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section below on YouTube. Let us know what you guys think on the Apple Podcast and Spotify podcast feeds there as well by leaving us a 5-star rating and review. We want to know what you guys think about this show. So thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun talking about this team as they are about to head into an All-Star break for a much-needed break. So with that being said, Facci, if you're hoping the Pacers can get back on track and beat the Wizards on Wednesday night, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers!